Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
I'm opening. We have an eye, sort of a nostril, 2 teeth. One of the teeth has a small cavity. Close call, folks, but I think we got here just in time.
Presented by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro. This is Anatomy of a Movie. In-depth discussions and breakdowns of various movie titles. And now that you've seen the movie, let the dissection begin.
Welcome, movie lovers, to Popcorn Talk Network's Anatomy of a Movie. And welcome to Jurassic World. It's not as good as John Hammond's.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Oh, man. So much to talk about this movie. So much going on. Let's start with introducing ourselves. We have Demetri Panos.
Hello, movie fans.
In poor taste, he is wearing not only a Jurassic Park shirt, but a Jurassic Park jacket.
Yes, this is all vintage, original Jurassic Park merchandise from 1993. This actually, because I was at Universal, I was working for Universal when the original came out. This is the actual promo shirt that we gave away to theaters as giveaways. The jacket was purchased at Universal Studios in 1993. It was one of the times I came out to visit. And I had meetings at Universal Studios, and I purchased this, along with my Universal discount, I might add, at the Universal gift shop, and there was no Jurassic Park ride yet. So this is vintage 1993.
You know, now we're all going to die because you're wearing that.
So actually, you may, because the one guy that's wearing the vintage shirt lives.
But you're saying it costs less than $50.
Yes, it did cost less than... Well, the shirt was free. The jacket was less than $50. Right, yes.
There we go. And we have the lovely Sarah Stratton.
Hello. I have no Jurassic Park or World merchandise on me. I decided to wear just black.
Just black.
And
we have Marisa Serafini.
What's up, everybody? I wore blue because I knew the logo had blue in it.
And
I tried to coordinate.
Blue.
All right, so we're talking Jurassic World, the fourth movie of the franchise. I gotta say, you know, as we open up to general thoughts, what I loved was the thought behind it, right? In terms of it being a theme park that's open and it making sense, they need to rebrand. Well, how do you rebrand? Everything about Jurassic Park was red. Jurassic World is all blue. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you change it from Jurassic Park to Jurassic World. It makes sense. Sure. I love the fact that they really rebranded and thought about it. Okay, what does a fully functioning Jurassic theme park look like? And that, to me, was the most fun aspect of it. If you had to nitpick this movie, you know, from script and other things, you know, it wouldn't hold. But... it honestly, to me, it didn't matter. I loved it from start to finish. And that's my general thoughts.
Overall, it was action-packed, yes, definitely. There were some moments I did laugh out loud, and other moments, if from a general audience standpoint, yeah, we can nitpick. I don't want to say I hated the movie. It was fun. And, you know, I was a mere toddler when the earlier ones came out, and now... this new generation of Jurassic World, it is fun to watch. And I like how the newer, younger people, how that would appeal to the general audience now. People still love dinosaurs.
I'm really excited to talk about this movie. Saw it twice. First time, definitely on the edge of my seat. Multiple, physical reactions to the suspense, to how they use these dinosaurs. It concerned me, though. I came out, I had a lot of fun, but I didn't go up to everyone being like, you need to see this movie. I could just say that I enjoyed it, and I had a great time seeing it. I was worried about my second encounter with Jurassic World. I was worried that since I knew where everything was going, I wasn't going to like it as much because I was going to concentrate on my criticisms of story or character. But I have to hand it to him. I saw it a second time. Still, I wasn't completely on the edge of my seat this time, but I was still thoroughly entertained and engaged, particularly with the dinosaurs. So for a dinosaur movie, super fun. I'm excited to talk more about story, what I think that they did well, what I think they could have improved upon. But it has taken the world by storm. I think that people came out in just droves to see this film. What's funny to me is I don't think they were coming out because of critical response or even like friends telling them they need to see it. People started coming out just because they were like, this movie's making so much money and everyone has seen it. I need to now see it. Which to me was a very interesting like ammo to get you in the seats.
Mm-hmm. I have a history with Jurassic Park. I was fortunate enough to, as I said, I worked at Universal when the original came out. So the original is always near and dear to my heart. But above and beyond that, the original set a standard. It changed the landscape of special effects and cinema. And again, it was a movie that broke records all over the place, but yet it also brought dinosaurs to life. Up to that point, the special effects just weren't there yet. And it took a little while to go from book to screen and the science that was involved and all that. But Spielberg made it work, and he made it magical, and that's what brought audiences in. And so first one, I'm a fan of the series. This one, a ton of fun. However, I just don't think it could recapture the magic that was Jurassic Park, but neither did Lost World and Jurassic Park 3. Let's face it, let's be honest. The first time you see a dinosaur, the Brontosaurus, in Jurassic Park, that is pure cinema magic. With John Williams' score, when it gets up on its haunches to grab the leaf, you feel as if you were Sam Neill, Alan Grant, and Ellie, and even Ian, the pessimistic, chaotic Ian Malcolm, and the lawyer. They just look up in awe, and as an audience, it was awe-inspiring because we'd never seen anything like that before. This movie doesn't have that. However, it does capture the nostalgia. This is where I had the most fun with this movie. Colin Trevorrow land, as I like to call him, Colin Trevorrow did a great job in capturing the nostalgia of the first movie, whether it be certain scenes in directing and certain situations in which he lifted or paid homage to. Michael Giacchino's score is great. That's what really drew me in. Then the nitpicking comes in, and then, unfortunately, from a narrative perspective, to me, it turns into a sci-fi B-movie madness. Everything from raptor training to military use of dinosaurs to some silly romance and outrunning a T-Rex in heels, which we'll talk about later on. Those are the things that took away, but I've seen the movie twice now as well. The second time, I had a great time watching it, but those little nitpicky things stood out equally, if not a little bit more, the second time around for me. But I still think for a summer blockbuster movie, it delivers. It's a fun movie, regardless.
And I saw it twice too.
Yeah.
Marisa did not.
I did not.
She's the lone wolf.
You're behind. It's only been out a week and you've only seen it once.
Actually, I will preface this. I tried seeing this movie 3 times, only got to it once. I literally went to 3 different movie theaters, and on the third time, third time's the charm, I finally got to see it. So.
Yeah, it was an easy movie to see again, and I wanted to see it again, and it looked great, sounded great. Set pieces are great in this movie. Pacing, I thought, was pretty good. It was just like some of the silliness. A lot of people were saying this is the best sequel in the franchise, and I sort of kind of argue that it's people seem to forget that some of the great set pieces in like Lost World, I don't think it's like the best, but we're gonna get into story a little bit later on, and I can't wait.
We will. Let's start with the fact that this is 22 years after the original. And this has been described as production hell. Just reading about, I don't even know how to summarize it, because even the summary is just so long and confusing of how we got here that you might as well just say finally in 2011, Steven Spielberg at Comic-Con said, you know what, we're going to have a movie, the 4th Jurassic Park, and it's going to take 2 to 3 years. And that's really but the revisions before and after, they were going to have Dr. Alan Grant, they were going to have Ellie Sattler, they were going to have Malcolm, they were all attached at one point. Joe Johnston, the director of the third, was going to be involved for a bit, and it kept circling of who was involved, who was not involved, and years and years since 2004.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is one of those franchises where that length of time didn't hurt the movie.
No.
Sometimes that length of time for a sequel ends up really damaging the movie's goods because people just don't care. I think people care. I think Universal did a great job, like as you said, of almost rebranding this and marketing this. That it just built up a fever pitch of people wanting to see dinosaurs on the big screen and eating people.
On top of that, the jump that we had, the time jump that we have between movies, allows us to believe that they did create a park, that they were able to create the actual thing that we get to see. When they originally talked about making Jurassic Park 4, and that was in
2004 was the original talks.
Just from if you're talking about like the time of this going with almost like real time life, like I can believe that 20 years after all of the incidents that happened with Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3, they actually went through and made a park is more believable to me than if it had come out like really quickly.
Let me ask you this, because the originals
but also this park has been open for 5 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like
there is a legitimate website that gives the full history of all of these things, and I mean the user interface on this is actually pretty brilliant. But Sarah's right; it's been open since 2005, so it's supposed to make people feel that it's been open for 10 years, in that way.
I didn't get that feeling.
Yeah,
if that was the feeling they were trying to show me, that it had been open for 10 years, I definitely didn't get that. I would get maybe three.
And I could have sworn in the movie they had made mention that we've only been open for 5 years.
They mentioned that every couple of years they need to add in a new attraction to get more people and celebrity guests and yada yada yada. Hence why they need the Indominus Rex.
Indeed.
Which is funny which is true to form, because when you look at theme parks, like true theme parks like Disney, every so many years they do something. They either build a new attraction or they revamp an old attraction. This year it's their 60th birthday. So to me, all of that stuff fit into the reality of, yes, if you're going to stay viable, you gotta give people something new. I just don't know how many season pass holders who live in Isla Nublar, are going to be going back to it was funny to see. It was great conversation that the kids had with these tram buddies, and they're like, "Have you been here before?" And they goes like, "Yeah, we've been here before." And so there has been repeat business coming to these parks, which I think was a really good setup. So it's been open for a little bit, which is cool and fully realized.
Yeah. Now, before we dive into this one, the 2004, 2005 original kind of premise, and I forget where it ended up script-wise, was the fact that these dinosaurs, they were going to take the concept of the third one, where you had the flying pterodactyls, and they were going to just migrate over to Costa Rica, and then they get Ian Malcolm and Dr. Grant to come back to deal with this population incident.
Overpopulation.
Yeah, I mean, how would you guys have felt about that one? It just seemed interesting to me. I don't think they could have done it well, but I like the idea that we ended up with a park instead of just another incident of dinosaurs being loose.
I think it would be an easy way to obviously tell the story how they moved locations, and I think that would be it. Honestly, I don't think it really matters where, so long as it's a nice place, warm, that's a lot of climate, big open land to house all the dinosaurs. I believe it could be anywhere.
Yeah, well, and don't forget, like within the history of Jurassic Park, Isla Nublar, this is the second time throughout the franchise that they've gone back to Isla Nublar. That's the original site. So they've built upon that. Lost World and Jurassic Park take place at, I believe it's Isla Sorna, which is their off-site where they're breeding dinosaurs, which we didn't hear about here. But, I get the sense that, yes, they just built upon, better technology. They built upon the original. So, to me, it looked like a fully functioning... It's probably closer to what John Hammond was trying to envision in doing in the first place.
Spare no expense.
Spare no expense. And that seems to be a common theme throughout the entire series of what John Hammond was able to accomplish. But this seems to be like... It's much like when Walt Disney was setting up Disneyland and what happened. It's just a very interesting... When you parallel it... he had to go to Florida to really build and expand and make Disney World. So out here we have Disneyland, and in Florida we have Disney World, which actually is a world, not unlike Jurassic World, where there are different paddocks, and it's just bigger.
Yeah.
So,
relating into this, I think that as we're talking about the actual park in motion, this is one of the things that I really loved about the film, but also cued me into the perspective that I had to view this in. What I'm trying to say is that I love the rides. I loved the spectacle of the jumping Mosasaurus while he captures the shark, as we get to see I like to call them the hamster balls. That's not
the gyrospheres.
The gyrospheres. Like, the ideas behind this were intriguing and beautiful. But how we saw them interact with all the attractions was very much from an audience perspective and not from the character perspective, or not an interactive perspective. Mm-hmm. So when they're putting you in the hamster ball gyrospheres, like, you're watching the actors in them. You're not watching out. You're not seeing the world through the attraction. Or, for instance, when you have the hologram, it's just part of the scene. You're not interacting with it. You're just viewing it, which to me disengages the audience a little bit from the intimacy that you were getting in, say, like the originals. So when you talked about the only scene where we see them really interact
with what?
With dinosaurs, with attractions, with anything.
Like the voyeuristic
when you're
feel.
in the gyrosphere, you're not looking through it. You're not seeing the dinosaurs through it. You're looking in on the actors, and you're seeing their reactions to things versus feeling them yourself.
Okay.
Versus being shot from, like, the actor's perspective, or the over-the-shoulder shots, or anything like that, where it would be seeing, exploring, feeling. You're just watching. Or, for instance, when they give you the shot of the youngest brother playing with the jeans and putting them in the actual circles. You're watching him do it versus doing it with him.
Okay.
I know what I'm saying?
No.
The voyeuristic feel.
Because, I sort of do, but I'm sorry. I mean, the original Jurassic Park didn't really have... I mean, there was a scene with Chris Pratt in this one that was very similar to the scene in the original Jurassic Park where Ellie and Alan Grant were nursing the sick Stegosaurus, or Triceratops, I believe, where in this one it was a Brontosaurus that they were trying to... and I thought that was a very touching, comfort. Comfort in its loss. But even when they were in the Jeeps, we didn't necessarily... We were seeing things from their perspective when they were, like, the T-Rex attack in the paddock is, again, legendary and so memorable, but we're living it through those characters' eyes, and when they're escaping the T-Rex in the Jeep, which is crazy too. I guess in this movie, that's what I'm trying to say. I didn't feel like I was seeing this through the character's eyes. I didn't feel like the perspective was through a character's eyes. I felt like it was very much... I was an audience watching other people experience this. Wow, because when that toenail came in through the geosphere in 3D, I felt like I was in that. I felt like I was in that geosphere. I thought, and the geosphere to me, that's one of my favorite. What an amazing invention!
It's beautiful. It's a great invention. That's what I'm saying.
And, I loved going through those dinosaurs and how that thing interacted, and and with the Mesosaurus, I felt like I was part of the audience watching this thing come up, and again fully realize, like, they do this big thing and you think, oh, okay, scene's done, but then when that whole park like just starts to drop and sink, that was pretty awesome. I was like, God.
It was Colin's idea to have the Mosasaurus, but then it was Steven Spielberg's idea. Like, okay, now we gotta
finish it. We gotta finish it off. Yeah.
So Steven Spielberg is very much involved in that. I think, to Sarah's point, I think they made a very conscious decision about that. I mean, they shot at a 2-to-1 aspect ratio, which is very, it's not standard at all either. It's 1.85 to 1 or 2.33 to 1. And they made, and for them it was the perfect marriage where you can see the dinosaur in frame, but also see the people. So for if it didn't work for you,
I'm not saying it was very fun. But I just felt like that was my disconnection from the characters. That's where I put it. I had a fun journey, and I experienced a lot of things, being excited by the surprises of the dinosaurs popping up, or when they jumped over the cliff. Like, there was adrenaline. But I didn't have an intimate connection with a lot of these characters because I wasn't really watching things I felt like from their perspective as much. I didn't really identify with anyone. I thought that it was exciting, and I had a very physical reaction. Emotional, not so much.
Well, I mean, if we want to jump into story,
let's
because to Sarah's point, and again, the first Jurassic Park set up a set of precedent and rules. But the other thing that the first Jurassic Park did really well is introduce us to characters. So we were introduced, our first shot though is on Isla Nublar, and they're moving a raptor. So we get hooked in that way. But then we're introduced to the lawyer Gennaro. Then we're later after that we're introduced to our paleontologist and botanist, Alan Grant and Ellie, and we're introduced to each of these characters, and each of them sort of kind of like through the movie, we're introduced to them. We get some of their backstory. We understand that Alan Grant not comfortable around kids and or technology. We know that John Hammond is a rich guy who wants to put this together, who's a little bit more he was a lot more philanthropic in the movie than he was in the book. But even when we meet Ian Malcolm, we've individually met these characters, and they're put together so that even when Lex and Tim show up, we know that they're the grandparents, and there's no backstory. There's nothing going on with their parents. It's just John Hammond wants his grandchildren to experience dinosaurs for the first time, and which is exciting for kids. This one, I agree. The characters seem to be they just seem to be strewn about, so to speak, with very caricaturish kind of, she's the businesswoman who's gonna not pay attention to the kids. These are the kids who are sent to the park because the parents are getting divorced and they're trying to cope with this. There was no, with the exception of Ty Simpkins' character, because he was like, I want to see everything. It was lacking in a lot of the I want to see everything, because his older brother was a little negative, stuff like that.
That was my thing. Because the audience spent so much time with these kids, I didn't like the older teenager. I was like, all right, he's the angsty, moody one. All right, something might happen to him. I don't think they would kill a teenager in the movie, right. But it was like, already I wasn't connected to him. I was like, I really didn't care what happened to him. Yeah. I liked the little kid more because he came from that more innocent, who would enjoy the actual theme park. I was like, I get that. I liked the kid. I didn't really get the emotional connection from the aunt to the kids, to Aunt Claire. Yeah. And then there were, not to nitpick all these, but the moments when Aunt Claire was trying to figure out where they went and they got lost, like, she knew what his cell phone looked like or what clothes he was wearing, yet she didn't know the height of and the description of her and like the age of her nephews and whatnot. There were so many things. There was such a disconnect. It's like, you don't know these teenagers yet, but when you're trying to find them, you know everything about them. I'm like, I didn't get that, and so a little nitpick there. Yeah, but I didn't feel for the teenagers, and we spent so much time for them. Yeah, well,
I'll even, a step further. Like I said, one of my biggest nitpicks of this movie was the Chris Pratt character. There was no background to him. All it said is he was a Navy guy, he was a service guy, and now, for whatever reason, he's training dinosaurs to a point where he doesn't particularly know why he's training dinosaurs, and I don't know what makes him so adept at training dinosaurs other than we see him trying to train velociraptors. There's nothing that said that.
Here's the thing. I can't really validate it because the chain of logic is really really far-fetched. But there are some people who actually think, and again, look up the theory if you want to know the full chain of sequence, that it's the kid that Dr. Grant scares in the first Jurassic Park with the Velociraptor thing. Right. So his journey's gone, into the military. Now he's back dealing with raptors.
Yeah, I don't think the kid that says it's an
that's a
overstuffed
stretch.
turkey ends up being Chris Pratt, but it's a very interesting theory. But still, there's no background. Like, I don't even know what he did for the Navy. Like, did he train dogs for the Navy? Did he train Navy SEALs? Or like, I don't know what he did. And then it didn't seem that he knew why he was training velociraptors either. And again, why is there a need in movies, especially when you're in a franchise and you're sequelizing out? Why do you need to soften your villain? Like, why do you need to, like, the velociraptors, like from Jurassic Park, these are vicious animals. Why the need to domesticate?
No, I think that
and that I have a problem with.
I'll disagree, because that was something I was really excited to see, just because I was very fascinated on how they were going to be trained, and I did like how they kind of tread the waters of still making them dangerous, and to the point that I didn't know if at some time they were going to turn or how safe Chris Pratt's character was. I didn't think too hard about why Chris Pratt's character was there, because at least I thought that he owned the situation he was in, and I understood why people listened to him. Versus my character problem was
I couldn't figure out why they were listening. Like, I don't know how he got the job or why he would take the job. Like, that was my big thing. Like,
well, I don't know how Claire kept her job.
Yeah,
right.
Like, my whole thing was like, I don't believe that you are the director. I don't like. She was putting on this act of being very like powerful and in control, but I just never believed that anyone would actually listen to her. I didn't feel the conviction in the orders she was saying. I felt like she was more or less like, I really liked Masrani. I felt like he owned the role he was in. I felt like she was almost acting like his secretary, and I was like, you are the director of this park. You should be able to walk anywhere and hold your ground, and just you run a $1 billion park. Like, this is a serious business, and I just did not take her seriously. I just thought she could just be pushed aside. I was like, I don't understand how you're keeping this job. I don't know why you weren't fired.
It seemed to me that she brought in a lot of money. Because it is, I mean, she hooks Verizon into sponsoring the Indominus Rex. So she was able to get in the sponsors for the ride, which is very funny too. And it's great when you talk about theme parks. Like, again, Disneyland, brought to you by Kodak. Orville Redenbacher is there. So it made sense that they're getting corporate sponsors to, Verizon Wireless presents to you the Indominus Rex. So it looks like she brought a lot of money in. But
Director of sales.
I agree. To me, it would have been, what I would have liked character-wise is it would have been nice to have some. They took so much time as posting various throwbacks and nostalgia, which I loved. But it would have been nice if there was one thread from the original movie. Like, instead of making Chris Pratt a dinosaur trainer, right? Make him the game warden. Like, whenever you have a zoo and or a safari, there's got to be somebody who's in charge of making sure, like, if the animals escape, how we're going to take care of this and whatnot. And it would, like, maybe he was related to Muldoon from the first Jurassic Park, or make Lex the director of Jurassic Park, or the head of IT, or something to bring the thread of a character that I thought would have been nice.
To go off of that a little bit, the only thing, I didn't really mind Chris Pratt's character to be a trainer or whatever. It allowed the audience to know he understands dinosaur patterns and behaviors, and that's what added to, he knew what the Indominus Rex was going to be like, his patterns, his all these characteristics of an animal, traits, and the animal
a good game warden knows his animals too, and they don't train.
I got that from his character. He knows how to read signs and behavioral patterns of dinosaurs, and no one else did. He can get intimate with dinosaurs.
Yeah, but there was no game warden in the park overseeing that. He was just specifically there to train velociraptors. Like, it would, like, if he's gonna have this whole thing on the whole park, like, it just makes a little sense. And then it takes away that.
But here's the problem. Then it makes him responsible for the Indominus Rex. So it works for it, but it works against it, because then he by him having any sort of knowledge
of what's going on with the Dominus, then you would have known that.
No, but make that happen. You got to remember too, the original, like, it was so clear cut and just an easy story to tell. I felt that they started to add on. They made it too complicated. When you don't, and Indominus Rex is pretty scary. And if you let loose that thing on people, that's scary enough. That's wow enough, as that character says. So then you threw in this military aspect of dinosaurs, like, and just common sense tells you, like, that makes no sense at all, because as the movie proves, a velociraptor isn't any more capable of sustaining injury from an RPG. Like, they can get is just as easily blown up as any human can. And what are you gonna airdrop them? Like, how are you gonna get them? And then what? Then it's like herding cats. Who's going to control? It got silly.
But it got. But here's the thing. I mean, you have to look at it again from the perspective of all of this. This has been a 22-year saga of thinking that we can control dinosaurs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Chris Pratt's friend, he says, like, when will these people learn?
Barry?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of it. Like, despite all this, we're still not learning, even as an audience, right? I mean, if someone ever wanted to legitimately, a billionaires out there and the technology, like, because we're kind of there but not quite there, all it would take is watch these movies. This is the world's worst idea.
Right.
You know? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I like about it, is that there's, us as human beings in this movie, we're continuing to do stupid decisions.
Right.
Because one of the, you mentioned, Sarah, that you liked Masrani.
Masrani.
And his whole thing is, like, everyone thinks we're in control and we're not. And just the way he died, he thought he thought to a degree he was in control of the plane, or the helicopter rather, and he wasn't, and he dies very, very sudden. And so to Vincent D'Onofrio's character, like, he was just, you were so arrogant, and that's what got you in the end.
But that whole military thing, Masrani though had a great, like, there was a very it's how these corporate people were willing to put on these blinders. And because there was that great scene where he has with B.D. Wong, who's the only carryover since the original Jurassic Park. He's the geneticist, and he's like, why would you make this thing? And he's like, you're the one who told me to. He goes, you told me to do this. I have the memo that says we need them bigger, meaner, cooler. He goes, I was just following your orders. And it's almost like they seem to forget. And he's sitting there going, oh yeah, it's sort of kind of, I guess it sort of kind of is my fault. But then it's like, you didn't have to actually go and do it. It's like,
I think it showed that what started from Jurassic Park back in the 90s, that film, Jurassic Park started out of love, out of passion. And then this film showed that it used to be love. They used to do it for the passion of just loving dinosaurs, but now it's for business and for corporations, for money. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where they lost.
Yeah, and building up. And John Hammond, too, like, that gentleman's history is he was a... Well,
he went from capitalist to naturalist in 4 years.
4 years, right. but before that, he was a... He was a Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey kind of, setting up a flea circus, and he wanted to do this. And, the original Jurassic Park brings up great concepts when he says, if I wanted to save the condors, you wouldn't have a problem with this. And they're like, no, John, you don't understand. He goes, the thing is, you're creating something that you really don't know anything about. Nobody has. And it could bite you in the ass. That is the theme, and here we are, and they continue to create bigger, larger, more scary dinosaurs that could really eat you up really good. And, like, they still haven't learned from John Hammond's mistakes, so to speak. Yeah. So, that's the corporate lesson to be learned, that the corporations can be stupid. Mm-hmm. And they're all about the money. Yeah. I guess I'm still going to get my Disney annual pass. Pirates of the Caribbean doesn't eat me if it goes down.
Sarah, what did you like about story elements? What parts do you want to talk about most?
I did like how they kept kind of a surprise what the Indominus Rex characteristics were going to be. How they developed from... Because I was fooled. They fooled me a lot. Maybe it's because I was in the mood to be surprised, but including that it hid from the sensors, or that it was smart enough to pretend to claw its way out. That we do get to see the camouflage elements, that they did add in raptor, that they created this creature that was scary. And that is one thing that this movie held up for me. For instance, we just got done talking a couple months ago about Avengers Age of Ultron. A lot of people's biggest problem with Ultron was that they felt he lost a lot of his scare factor by the end. Or they didn't carry them through. And this, the number one problem is the Indominus Rex, and it carried through from beginning to end of the movie with me. When it was introduced, I found it scary, and when the T-Rex is almost failing and the Raptors have failed and everyone's failed, I was still scared of it. I was like, why is this thing not dying? And that is it's a cornerstone of this film that I think they did really, really well. They created a dinosaur that was intriguing. They gave the dinosaur backstory about killing its sibling. Like, I had a full character in that dinosaur. And
it's funny that you say that, because that too is a throwback to Jurassic Park when they talked about the velociraptors. But I mean, I agree with you. I think Indominus Rex is the show stealer, so to speak, outside of the Mesosaur that ends up being, it's a 2-second clip in a trailer, but ends up being has much more part in this movie. But that D-Rex was great, and you're right. Like, when he's taking out the mercs, like the Navy men, that was great. Another great scene is,
which, by the way, I will say, right, one of the references that maybe
tracker out.
So the original, right? So the ACU, right? That's what the guys, when they're first searching for it, right? They got the tracker and all that, and the guy kind of picks it up. There's the 2 drops of blood.
Correct.
It speaks to Ian Malcolm's remember, he's doing the chaos theory with Dr. Sadler, and it's supposed to go one way or another, but vibrations and things, and they change the pattern, so you don't know which way it's going to go. That's actually what that's referenced.
Yeah, it's a great throwaway, and
but most people wouldn't have caught that one.
No, I did. It was because it's fun, because
but you're not most people.
Well, I don't know.
But I thought that
it was great. Those are great throwbacks.
And they had wonderful throwbacks. On top of that, just how they did tie in this tracker at least multiple times. How it had use, that not only was it a distraction and informative about how smart this dinosaur was, that they later used it for the scent.
Yeah.
I thought that it was everything that surrounded the dinosaur, I thought was handled very well.
Yeah, and I love the camouflage scene. Not only the military, but even in the gyrosphere. Like, 4 dinosaurs. It's like 5. He's like 5, and then you notice that it was using camouflage as it came up from behind, and that's a great scene too. So you were gonna say?
Oh, I think that the use of, you said taking out the sensor, but we were still able to track it, and just the visual element and reinforcement that it's getting closer and closer to the human population. It's even that is building the suspense and building the story to hey, we have to take this down.
Right.
Before it literally kills everyone.
And I was thinking, God, this would have been great had they kind of taken the Aliens approach. And let's just say that Chris Pratt's character, who's the game warden, he puts together his team, who are supposed to know everything about these animals, right? And they're supposed to be the professionals. And you throw them into the jungle and they find out that they're over their heads. That would have been... it was exciting in the movie. It only happened for about 5 minutes, but it was great. When you realize, it goes, wait, you put them in there with non-lethal weapons? He's like, they're all going to die. And it was a great scene. It was and you saw the ferociousness of this.
The storytelling around the dinosaurs is great. Also, how they used the passage of time when we spent with the characters, they still imposed that this dinosaur was still creating havoc, whether it be we do get the one car that's been destroyed, that we don't see that scene, we don't see that person die, or when he does attack she attacks the valley and we get the aftermath. It just imprints on you that they are keeping in mind all of the actions of this character, even though you're not seeing it, and you are just constantly gaining the danger, the ferociousness, that how many people are being affected. So I thought everything for that storyline was just done very well.
Which, by the way, I found interesting that the Indominus Rex means fierce and untamed king in Latin.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be queen? Isn't it a lady dinosaur?
And it's funny too,
Yeah,
because
seriously.
watching this movie, you're only at the very beginning. Like, there's a scene in a T-Rex paddock, and there's the goat. I'm like, where's the goat? And there was a flare, and I just then we see that, and then done, and throughout as the movie was building up, I'm like going, the T-Rex has got to come back, right? I go, we got to see the T-Rex. There's got to be something. And it's almost as if Ken Watanabe stepped out of Godzilla and came out and said, let them fight. Like, that's what I was expecting. Like, and that's what happened.
It was, and that is one of the best scenes, especially because they don't lead into the fact that the T-Rex is going to possibly lose. They say more teeth, you haven't already injured, right. You think there's the glory of it smashing through, the flare is gone, and there's that moment where the T-Rex charges, and then just slowly you see, oh, it's even. It's not.
It's a Rocky
even.
fight. It was a Rocky fight. It was like Rocky. It's the Rocky formula. Mm-hmm. Rocky comes out strong at the beginning, then he gets the crap knocked out of him, and you think he's gonna lose, and he comes back, and it was like a classic Rocky fight. It's like he comes out, then he sort of kind of gets beat, and you're like, oh, you're gonna get up and you're gonna beat them. And as soon as she said, "Open paddock 9," I'm like, T-Rex. And I love that it was the original T-Rex from Jurassic Park. That to me was great. And they even had the scars on the face from when he fought, or she fought the raptors at the end of that. So that makes that makes the scene great. Then again, look, much has been said about Claire's high heels. Now, for the most part, I'll be honest, I didn't care, because when you look at today, you look at people like Beyonce and Taylor Swift.
Girls can still run in heels.
Yes, but they perform in heels, so I get that. Okay, that didn't bother me so much. However, the original Jurassic Park set up a rule that says a T-Rex can pretty much almost outrun a Jeep. Even if you throw obstacles like a tree in front of it, they had a hard time escaping a T-Rex in a Jeep.
Maybe he was taking a nap before she woke him up.
Yeah, that the T-Rex, she was going to overrun or outrun a T-Rex in heels, no less.
I know.
And, with the flare, I was like, it was a great shot, though. And again, to your point earlier, like the way that movie was shot and the way that they were able to put the big T-Rex like with... Great shot, but you're like, well,
here's the thing. I mean, it was a short distance.
Suspended believability, not even about what she was running, but just the fact that she was running.
Ian Malcolm in the original Jurassic Park had a short distance in the T-Rex paddock, and he got the wind knocked out of him. He got thrown into an outhouse.
I don't care, because adrenaline can make you all invincible.
I don't buy it.
So whatever.
I don't buy it.
You know what? It's not for sale.
My big thing was they kept mentioning her shoes. Like, her shoes had so many solo shots in this film. That was more of like, I don't care that she's wearing heels. I don't care.
I don't care either, but
stop showing it to me.
I did love the moment where she dramatically just, changes her shirt and like buttons it up, very much Laura Dern's character in the Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
that is a throwback, and the white is a throwback to John Hammond.
Yeah, and
let me ask you.
He goes, what was that all about? And again, I thought we were going to get a Romancing the Stone thing where he take these are like Gucci's, and then I thought Chris Pratt was going to take them, like chop off the hill and go, now they're practical, but that didn't happen. Again, they didn't bother me until she outran a T-Rex. That was it.
Well, let me ask you guys if this bothered you, right? Yeah. The total body count is 25.
Right.
Highest body count yet, but it's, if you think about it, I thought it would be at least in the high 50s.
Yeah, I thought
based
it was
off
gonna,
of,
I
based off
agree.
of what I saw. Like, if you asked me
based
at
off the trailer and stuff, or
not even
just
based off
watching the movie?
just watching. Had you asked me when I came out of the movie, what the body count was, I would like at least 50.
Being that the original title for this was Jurassic Park Extinction.
Correct.
I'm glad they changed it, because to me, I didn't feel like everyone was extinct. So like I expected, who I expected to die? I expected the older brother to die. Did
Same
anyone else?
here.
You did really?
Yeah.
Okay.
When they
Because
gave that speech in the back where he's like, "We're brothers, we'll always be there together," I was like, "Oh no, now you're gonna die."
That's what it didn't.
That'll be okay.
I was
didn't like.
"That's what's gonna happen.
yeah.
You're going to die."
I completely agree with you because that's what I didn't like because for the first 20 minutes of the movie, he's so disinterested in his brother and in the park, and then somehow immediately he switches like, no, we're brothers, we're family, I gotta watch out for you. This park is amazing. Let's go roam around in this gyrosphere and look for more dinosaurs. Like, you didn't give two craps about it 10 minutes ago. So I didn't get his character.
I think the Mesosaurus got him
It
all.
did. And speaking of that, we're going to take a quick
There we
break.
go.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with a special guest, and we're going to talk about that very scene. So we'll be right back
Can't wait.
after this.
Great.
AfterBuzz TV. Hi, I was once like you, a lazy, angry loner whose only joy was watching TV and surfing the net. And like you, after I'd see one of my favorite TV shows, I'd be so excited and have so many questions that I'd actually have to talk to my douchebag coworkers about it at the water cooler. Then I discovered AfterBuzzTV.com. AfterBuzz TV produces after-show webcasts and podcasts for TV series of all kinds, like post-game wrap-up shows for all your favorite TV shows. AfterBuzz TV hosts are industry insiders who break down episodes of shows, take calls from fans, and interview cast and crew from each series, with over 60 different after-shows, from Boardwalk Empire to American Idol to Vampire Diaries to Real Housewives, and more. Now, after a night of TV, I can ignore my stupid coworkers, who I hate, and go straight to my desk and watch or listen to all my favorite AfterBuzz TV after shows, and have all the TV fan interaction I need. Thank you, AfterBuzz TV.
AfterBuzz TV. What do you want to buzz about?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. And we are with Courtney Clark, who is the announcer for the
Mosasaurus.
She
You
should
gotta announce the name of the dinosaur because I still can't do it.
Mosasaurus.
Mosasaurus.
Yeah.
That's right. And, we kind of told our audience, it was kind of one of Colin's ideas. It was a throwback to Jaws that he wanted this whole shark dinosaur in there. Yeah. And then it was Steven Spielberg's idea for it to come down and things like that. And Demetri, I know you're particularly excited about this because you saw a lot of the making of that particular scene. And so I think, there's a lot to talk about there, and especially with someone who was there.
Yeah, number one, thank you so much. It really is a pleasure. And your face actually, just due to the trailers and the marketing, your face became, in a sense, the host of Jurassic World. I mean, you were in so many scenes. Well, when you think about how many times this trailer was played, and that Mesosaurus scene was shown in every single television spot in one way, shape, or form, you were there. So did you ever expect that? Number one?
No, I was told like, oh, this may be in the Super Bowl trailer and everything, and I thought, oh, that's really exciting, but I'll believe it when I see it. And then I started hearing my voice and seeing myself and just being like, this is happening. And all the fans were picking up on it faster than I was. They knew it before I knew it, that it was out there. So
yeah, which is great. And correct me if I'm wrong. This scene was not filmed in Hawaii, right? So you didn't get to travel with everybody to Hawaii, but it was in your home.
It was.
State. It was in Louisiana, New Orleans, correct?
I grew up in Louisiana, so I got to go back home and spend time with my family and film there.
And it was an abandoned theme park.
I didn't shoot in an abandoned theme park. I shot on NASA grounds.
Sweet.
So
even better.
I like to think that I am part of NASA.
That's great. Now there were about 200 plus or so extras. Were you able to bring family were you able to bring like family and friends and say, hey, I'm gonna be doing this is gonna be cool?
I didn't. I left that all like a surprise, but I got to talk with a lot of the extras, and everyone was they were so excited, as was I, as was Colin and Frank Marshall, and everyone could not believe we were getting to do this.
Could you set up the scene? Like, how was this whole thing? I have an idea, but I think it's just better coming from somebody who was there.
because I mean, especially because they built, you know, one of the things we haven't talked about is the whole the park, right? They built so much of this, you know, which is the most exciting part. So, to Demetri's point, tell us about
what you look like.
What was my real setup? A lot of it was built. They had a lot of the stadium built. They had a lot of people there. They had huge water machines, so it would give you that energy that you would feel if something massive was coming out of the water. And they had this huge podium built for me that I had to climb a ladder, which is hard to do in a skirt and heels. And you couldn't really touch the ladder because it was so hot outside. So, they had like a lot of it built, so it was easy to imagine it because they created that world for you. The only thing that was missing was, the dinosaurs.
Well, what were you looking at? Like, was the crane? I'm assuming the shark was digital. What were you looking at? Was there at least a crane for you to like watch come over? And how did that all work for your sightlines?
Yeah, they had like a crane, and they had like a big kind of gadget thing that they would propel up in the air to signify the mosasaur coming up and like getting the shark, and that's when they would swell the big water, gushes of water to go into the audience. So they did create a lot to help us out.
What was it like to work with Colin? Because obviously there's a lot of interviews with him and things like that.
Right.
But I mean, when you're working on this scale of movie, I mean, for me, if I was doing it, I just imagine myself running around on set being so panicked. Yeah. And in hindsight, you can, especially now with the money that it's made,
right,
you can take a sigh of relief. But especially, to set up that big scene, and none of us knew that it would be such a big payoff, obviously, towards the end when it kills the Indominus Rex. So that this is a huge scene that he has to worry about.
Right. Well, he never showed that. Like, he was like a kid in a candy store. He was so happy. His energy was amazing on set. He was an awesome director to have because he gave me direction, but he also allowed me to play and kind of see what I could find out and bring to the table, which was really cool. He was fantastic, like literally an amazing person, let alone a director.
How long did it take?
To film that?
Yeah. Like, were you there for a day, 2 days? How many angles?
Just one long, full day in the hot, hot sun.
Right. Now, you were a big part of the mosasaur scenes, and you said there was only one day. What were your other favorite parts of the movie or favorite scenes that...
I really, really love the scene. It sticks out to me when Bryce Dallas Howard goes and gets the flare. Oh, I get chills when she runs to that gate and she opens it up, and you see... I'm getting chills right now all over my legs. You see the T-Rex that we've all been wanting to see because that's always been the star of Jurassic Park films. And you see him start to come out and follow her, and she just starts running, and he's right behind her, and that shot to me is so awesome.
So what's your history with the franchise, right? Because Chris Pratt was there for opening day of Jurassic Park, and he feels such a weight of this franchise now, and what's your history been like? And then further, how's the casting process for you to become involved in this one?
I definitely remember seeing the first Jurassic Park when I was 7 in the movie theater and being scared and excited, and I thought to myself, like, oh my god, this is movie magic. I want to do something like this. This is so cool.
I have to ask you said you were 7. Okay, I worked with the original Jurassic Park. It was at Universal Pictures. I was working in theatrical distribution.
That's awesome.
This was when this movie came out, when the original came out, there was lots of talk about how did it get a PG-13 rating, because it was so intense, and people really got, especially when the lawyer gets lifted up off the toilet, and I mean, people died some grisly deaths at 7 years old. Like, did you see with your parents? Like, were they at all like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a kids movie. And Universal at the time really did have to do a little bit of damage control to say, you know, because kids were really, they were getting the bejesus scared out of them.
Right.
Was that your...
Oh, God, yeah, I was petrified. I think at one point, after I'd seen the movie, I definitely woke up in the middle of the night and just, like, stood over my parents' bed. Not waking them up, but just, like, stood over my mom, and she was like... And I'm like, can I sleep with you, please? Like, yes, definitely scared. And to this day, when I watch them, the originals, I still feel like that... And then I have to remind myself, no, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. And I feel like they still hold up to this day. They're amazing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I would like to hear, as Phil mentioned, about what your audition process was like, or when you found out this was going to be for the next Jurassic Park installment. Did you know that's what you're walking into the room for?
No, I sent in a tape, and it was an audition that wasn't this scene in particular, but it had the same kind of emotion behind it. I didn't know that it was about dinosaurs, because my scene wasn't. So I was actually working on another film, Mind Puppets, when I got a call that we were just waiting for a final studio approval for Jurassic World, and I was like, what are you talking about? Jurassic World? What? Did I audition for that?
Is this the one where it was like a fake audition for, like you sort of kind of, a fake audition for a fake movie?
Right.
Where you called it and you had like 10 minutes to put on tape and you did it all yourself pretty much?
Yeah. I had 10 minutes because that day I was insanely busy and I was giving it my all, but I was like, I don't know what this is about. I don't understand this movie. Yeah, and then that ended up working out, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. What was that call like? Who called you, number one, to say, hey, you got this role, and then they tell you the big surprise?
Well, my agent called, and she told me we were just waiting on final studio approval. Director, producers, they've all approved. We're just waiting for Universal. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, what? And I talked to my family, and I was like, so I don't want to say yes or no yet, but I may be in the new Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic World. I don't know. And then I think the next day I got a call when I was actually with my family, which was awesome. I had a day off from set filming that other film. And I got the call that, yeah, it's a go. And I was just elated. I could not believe it.
Out of curiosity, because the two brothers, right? Their audition was they had to like pretend that they were scared of dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, did you audition for Jurassic World multiple times, just in different ways that you didn't know? Meaning like because you didn't know that this was an audition for Jurassic World. Were they and knowing that the two boys again, their audition was supposed to be just pretend you're scared of something, and in reality that was supposed to be scared of dinosaurs. Just out of sheer curiosity and just a fun question, do you think that there was any audition tapes that you sent that might have been also for Jurassic World now in hindsight?
Like other auditions I did? I guess you never know, but I don't think so. I think it was this one. That,
I mean, again, it's more of a silly question than anything.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they have a bunch of tapes of movies I was like, why didn't I get in that movie?
Did they not like? So how did they explain it to you? Did they say you were going to be a tour guide, or like how?
When I found out I booked it?
What was
the description?
Yeah, for the audition.
I was like at a basketball game, like a huge arena at a basketball game. And just, kind of getting the crowd pumped up for the basketball game.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought it was a basketball movie.
Gotcha. That is
you mentioned working with Colin, having him on set. I was just wondering, because a lot of people have been talking about Spielberg's involvement and about him having being there for Final Cut or whatnot. Was he ever on set with you, or?
I never saw him because I feel like I actually missed him. He was there leading up to me coming, and then I think he came back. I think he was working on different things in between. So I actually missed him. But I heard that he, watched my tape, which is crazy to think that Steven Spielberg has watched something I've done. It's just insane to me. And amazing.
And he approved. So there
yeah,
you go.
Exactly. Like, what?
Not only did he watch it, he approved.
Right.
So, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Looking at is it weird to watch yourself on tape in this movie?
Oh, for sure. I always find it weird to watch myself. I always get like it's an out of body experience. I'm like start itching and stuff. I start getting nervous. Yeah. It's definitely weird to watch myself. Yeah, it's hard.
What has you been watched yourself a lot. Yeah. I mean, television, ad campaigns, and
Well, yeah, a lot of times if I'm just like relaxing at home, and I'm either talking with someone or doing something around the house, and that like one of those trailers comes on, and I hear, "Okay, folks," I'm like, "Oh, I recognize that voice. Who is that again?" And then I'm always like, "Oh, wait, that is right. That's me. How weird."
Yeah.
What has been the reception been like for you, being in part of such a big movie itself and then part of this humongous franchise now? What has the reception you've been getting from it?
I love talking with the fans, especially on social media like Twitter, because it's such a cool outlet for us to have and connect.
What's your Twitter, so that way our fans can also...
Oh yeah, for sure. At Court J Clark. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. There you
go. So it's been really cool. All the diehard fans are loving it, and it's fed everything that they wanted in this film. As a sequel, so long after the third one, I think 13 or 14 years after that. They've all loved it. I mean, they've seen it 4 or 5 times. I just saw tweets of it's their world. It's which is awesome. Mm-hmm. So the reaction to it, I've only seen positive.
You mentioned you were a huge fan of the first one and the franchise in general. We talked a lot about the nostalgic moments of of the movie. One of the things we didn't talk about was Ian Malcolm's book being everywhere on this whole thing. But what are your sort of Easter eggs that you love in this movie?
I love the fact that when Bryce is like, all right, we're gonna do this, and she starts like tweaking her outfit, and it's like a nod to Laura Dern in the first one, how she wore her top and everything. I don't know, to me I was like, oh, what, that's so cool. What a smart little tiny subtle thing to pay homage to it. And I also love when the boys are kind of figure out how to get away from the Indominus Rex, and they Gray finds those little binoculars.
And
he just quickly puts them on and is like, I was like, oh, I remember that.
Where's the goat?
Yeah, right. And then just the banner, just being on the ground.
The banner was awesome. The banner was such a nice...
But they then light on fire.
Well, they didn't know any better.
I was like...
That's what kids would do.
That's a valuable prop right there.
They didn't know that. And all the bones from that,
Yes.
Do you remember what the banner says?
Oh God.
That actually should. You know what? That's going to be the trivia question.
There you go.
I had one. Being the Euro host, we have these. We have a prize pack, and so you're here, so we can say that that you're giving them away with the team. Yeah. We have a prize pack, and since you talked about the banners, that's a great question. Since so these glasses come from our good friends at Cinemark Theaters, and these are only given away in California. They're actual dinosaur 3D glasses, and we have we also have a dog tag that is a bottle opener.
A bottle opener dog tag.
Bottle opener Jurassic World.
Nice.
Yeah, and Cinemark XD. So for the 5 people, how many people are watching us or listening to us live? Because we have a live aspect, correct?
We do have a live aspect, and it continues to grow. We love it, as does our on-demand audience. So if you haven't done so, subscribe.
And the first person to write back and say what was on the banner gets this extremely limited edition prize pack. I know what the answer is.
So do I.
Yeah, but you just looked it up.
I'm reading the live chat.
Okay,
Thank you
did
very
somebody-
much. And people are actually answering. I believe. Sorry if I'm like butchering this name. R1BZOR. I won't say that out loud. But he says when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
He wins. That is exactly what it's all about. It's when they rule the world and it comes floating down with our T-Rex character as he roars, and it was great. That was a great callback that you brought up. So we just used that.
Speaking of, because in that scene, the Jeep, number 29.
Yes.
What's the? I have it somewhere, but
It
I'm
was
like,
Hammond's Jeep.
That was John Hammond's Jeep.
There you go.
Yeah,
That was John Hammond's Jeep.
At the
There you
beginning.
go.
Number 29.
Yeah, when they were bringing him, when he says, "Welcome to Jurassic Park."
The funniest part to me about that Easter egg is like how clean the number is, the badge, because that's what pointed out to me. I was like, very, very old, dirty Jeep. Perfectly clean number. Oh, I'm supposed to know that. Why am I supposed to know that? Right. It was like one of the funniest drops for me for this movie.
So
but always fun.
I wanted to ask you. I want to get about you a little bit. I want the audience to learn about you. So you're from Louisiana, New Orleans. You studied dance.
I did.
Ballet. You studied theater. In fact, you actually got to tour with the traveling company. You went to China.
I did.
Correct?
I did.
Tell us about that experience and what it did and how it exercised your acting muscle.
Okay. It was amazing. I mean, I got to do things that most people in their life never get to do. Climb the Great Wall, see the Beijing Opera. I mean, just visit these amazing cities, all the way on the other side of the world. Just insane. I toured a show called The Heidi Chronicles, which is very much about following a woman's journey, I think the 60s through the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And they ate it up. They loved it. It was crazy. But yeah, you really had to know a lot about your character and be able to really have that come out on stage, because there was a language barrier. A lot of times when we would perform, they would have these digital screens on the side of us, on the side of the stage, saying in Chinese what we were saying.
Sure.
So it would be delayed laughter. We might be in an intense scene at some point, but they would start laughing because a little joke was, earlier. So it was an amazing experience that I'm never.
How many
gonna
years
forget.
young were you?
I was 21.
And how did you get into that? We have a lot of Sarah, and we have a lot of people who are actors, actresses who watch. How did you get involved? How did you get on a touring thing that took you to China?
Well, at LSU, they have an equity theater, the Swine Palace, and I auditioned for it. And as I was leaving my callback, the director came and put his arm around me, and he said, "Well, pack your bags. You're going to China." And I was like, is that just a weird thing to say? Is that his way of being you booked it? I didn't know we were going to China. So we toured it in, Louisiana, and then I graduated college, and then 2 weeks later I left for China for the summer.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you graduated college and you had a gig.
Yeah, which was so
Your parents
cool.
must have been, look at that, she's already out of the house.
I know.
She's got a job.
They're like, okay,
great.
this just might work.
That's great. And you also do improv. As well, Upright Citizens Brigade, if I'm correct. So you use the improv outside of comedy. Like I said, you have a philosophy about acting. I said it before, it's a muscle that needs to be exercised. Yeah. You do this with the improv group?
I do. I have an indie team called Carol's Pool House, and we practice once a week. We have a coach, Matt Newell. He's from UCB. We practice with him once a week and have ongoing shows, because it's definitely a muscle that you need to work and flex and everything. And I feel like in general in life, it's kind of helped me, because you don't have this fear of I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know. It's it's going to come to you. It's going to get there.
Just out of curiosity, this might be far-fetched, but there's another actress in this movie, Lauren Lapkus, who plays Vivian in The Control Room, and she also is known for doing UCB. Have you ever run into each other?
I ran into her at the premiere because we have a lot of mutual friends, which is funny, and so we were able to talk then because we didn't work together in the film.
How do you think that energy helped with this film?
I think, well, I've heard Colin say that he really enjoys improvisers. He loves, like, the UCB community, for an example. He loves the skill of improvising and being able to subtly do things and kind of find interesting choices. So I know he's a big fan because who he usually casts in his films are heavy into improvising.
Safety Not Guaranteed is Jake Johnson, Mark Duplass, forget her name, Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, she was a big UCB person. So he's very much into like finding people like that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that works for this movie so particularly well is the comedy.
Right,
Yeah,
like that scene, Jake Johnson and Lauren Lapkus, when he's like, so you want to, like, he goes to give her that kiss, and she's like, I have a boyfriend.
Shot and saved.
And one of the things that works so great, because that could have been just funny in itself, but the fact that it comes after Owen and Claire's character, and they embrace, we're thinking, oh, this is going to happen a second time, it's going to be...
Right.
No.
Nay.
And then it's that awkward, long pause, like, oh, cool, yeah. I just like to keep this a work thing. It's like that awkward thing that probably all of us have been through at some point.
How many times have you seen Jurassic World?
I have only been able to see it once. I'm going again tomorrow. I've just been very busy with a lot of stuff, so I get to see it again tomorrow, which I'm so excited about.
Is that kind of happy? Like, is it a screening that you're going to tomorrow?
No,
just pleasure?
I'm going.
Just pleasure.
Yes.
Excellent.
Purely
That's
pleasure.
great. Also, you like to cook.
Yeah, I love.
Okay,
I
love to cook. So
all about the food.
Cooking is one of those things, like in the top 10 things that everybody should know how to do. It's like changing a tire, learning how to tie a bow tie, learning to cook one meal really, really well. What's your dish that one dish that you cook really, really well?
The one you use to impress people. That one.
Well, I feel like now that I'm out in LA, a lot of people are like, make some like Louisiana things. I want to see what that's all about. I've never had like a crawfish etouffee or anything, so probably crawfish etouffee. Yeah.
Crawfish etouffee.
Yeah, I get like crawfish flown in from Louisiana because it tastes different. Oh, my stomach's growling thinking about it. Actually, and I feel like my friends normally want to see something like that, where we make a good hurricane drink and have some crawfish etouffee and listen to some Cajun music.
Yeah, and the toughest part of that is the roux.
Yes.
I hate making roux.
Yes. That's very time consuming, and you got to give it a lot of love.
Yeah.
It has to be good enough for the dinosaurs.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. If the dinosaurs don't want it, it's no good.
Fantastic.
You mentioned China, that you toured China, and I want to kind of transition that into talk of because China accounted for a fifth of the overall gross for the weekend, and so I want to kind
the international gross.
No, overall.
Overall,
because it made 500 million, give or take 500 million, and that was a fifth of it. Two fifths was the U.S., give or take. And then everything else for the rest of the world. And, we invite you to crack wise, and as we continue the discussion of the movie, feel free to chime in.
Sure.
Okay.
But in terms of box office, but let's take a step back. What was the premiere like for you, and just even that reception of, people just so, people were legitimately excited for this movie for months.
Yeah.
There's Avengers and there's all these other movies, but this was the event to go to.
Yeah.
So what was the premiere like?
It was just magical. Really. The weather it just felt very jungly, because that day in LA, which is a rare occasion, it was kind of misty, overcast, windy. So you walk up and there are thousands of fans at Hollywood and Highland, so they're all on the balconies, they're everywhere. You walk up to the carpet that has all this greenery, all these like jungle leaves and everything, and they're blaring the Jurassic Park theme. So they're just blaring like da 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 da, and that was like wait, this is really happening.
And that was your first time going to see the completed movie, correct?
Yes. So
you actually stayed, which is
for
a lot of people.
sure.
A lot of
I know,
people.
yeah.
A lot of people
At
leave.
premieres,
Yeah,
leave.
they show up, hey, and then they don't,
Right.
But to me,
Oh,
sometimes even the worst movie gets the best reception at a premiere,
Right.
and that's where all the excitement is.
Right. I love going and actually staying for the films because I want to support it and
Right.
see what the product's about, So doing the carpet was amazing, and at one point I remember hearing my name and like looking up and seeing like a lot of social media fans that I had been interacting with, and I knew it was them because they had like these certain shirts on that I had seen all over social media. So that was so cool to be like, oh my god, I've been talking with you for like 6 months about this, and now I get to see your face.
That's great.
It was like pure magic, and we got to screen it in the Dolby Theater, which that's where they do the Oscars. Are you kidding me?
And with the Atmos, and they probably did it in Dolby Vision. My guess is in 3D.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
How amazing that this movie looks amazing in 3D
It's
and that
incredible.
format, right?
Yes.
Did everybody
I
can imagine.
I found a couple of things. They obviously did it very purposefully, right? The original Jurassic Park, June 11th. This Jurassic World, June 12th. They kept it very, very similar in that way, and I respect that. And also, there's a lot of great articles. You had mentioned Demetri early on. The sound design, right?
Right.
And speaking of the sound systems, it's interesting that that basically when they made the first Jurassic Park, they created what dinosaurs would sound like for the rest of history for audiences.
Well, and to add to that, Spielberg had invented a brand new sound system for theaters that Universal had to go out and sell to theaters. And in fact, was telling theaters, hey, if you're going to want to open Jurassic Park, we have this new, it was the first time ever that a digital sound system was incorporated into the theater system, and it was called DTS, which still in some form exists today, but it was digital theater sound, and it was the first time that it was actually truly amazing as to how it worked. And our branch office, as every branch office at Universal, had to sell it to exhibitors to get these decks into the theaters to play Jurassic Park. So not only was the sound design done amazingly, it was the first time audiences were listening to digital sound in a theater, so it sounded loud. And when we did this at the Cleveland Circle Cinema in Boston, my good friend Sean Going was the manager there at the time. They were one of the only theaters in the area. In fact, they were our test site for this. That's how digital theater sound came about, and it lent such this awesomeness. Like, again, that magical thing when you first see the Brontosaurus, not only do you hear it roar, but when it got up and then it landed in that thud in crystal clear digital sound, it was amazing. And it changed. People don't know how much the original Jurassic Park changed the landscape for not just special effects, but for movie going, because now everything's digital. Dolby Atmos owes it to Jurassic Park. This is how we get that immersive. Now they have speakers and ceilings, and it's insane what they were able to do. I don't know when you saw it, right?
And to add to the sound design, because the original movies it was so heavily on sound effects and whatnot, they added a new version of for Indominus Rex, and they did a lot of recordings of animals that have like high frequency, high squealing, kind of annoying, irritable type of sounds, which I found fascinating. They recorded monkeys, spider monkeys, lions, and then for the Mosasaurus they recorded whales and belugas for the watery, leathery type of texture to the sound, which I found fascinating.
Yeah. Now, did they ask you to study the Mosasaurus? Like, you're the face in a sense of, hey,
Right. Definitely. I definitely made sure I did that. I studied everything I could about a Mosasaurus, and then also just kind of SeaWorld-esque shows, how those people interact with the crowd and kind of like going through their spiel. I actually did something last night, and Colby, who works in the film as the kind of raptor intern, Chris Pratt's like, hey kid, why did you not realize
the one who almost
Right.
dies.
he almost died.
Don't ever turn your
He
back.
gave me mosasaur teeth last night. I saw him and I was like, what? is this real? And he's like,
That's
yeah,
great.
it really is real. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I put them in this little canister, and I was like, I can't let these break.
That's great.
That is
Speaking
awesome.
of that, I want to ask you guys because it's somewhat of a debate on the scene, right? The assistant, she gets carried off, and then she dies because of the Mosasaurus, right? And to me, in
Rip Katie
hindsight,
McGrath.
it's a very pivotal scene because it sets up for the fact, it reminds us that this thing is here.
Right.
So at the end of the movie, when it comes out and it drags the Indominus Rex, it's not just out of nowhere. It's a nice friendly reminder. And so to have to go to that scale. Again, it's just it just cements it in your mind that that there's a threat of this
Right.
entire time. But people are like, "What? That was just so over the top."
Well,
And
I
wanna hear from you
remember
guys.
why I listened to a podcast that Colin did, and he said this is the first time in a Jurassic film that a woman dies. And he was joking and saying, like, we're in Jurassic World, we're equal opportunists in death. Like, we'll do it for women or men. And we wanted to make sure that we gave her a death she could, she earned this death.
See, and I thought that she was just a pain in the ass on set because you usually give the most violent deaths to those people who are like, oh, we can't wait to get rid of it, and this is how it's going to happen.
Well,
you're going to get picked up, you're going to get played with, then you're going to get dumped into a pool. Oh, but wait, diving pterodactyls are coming in, and then the big Mosasaur is going to eat you, which you're in the mouth of a pterodactyl, and you get eaten by a Mosasaur, and it's done for you. See you later.
I thought she
That
was
was
just
a
the one.
memorable death. Though.
That was such a
Come on, that was awesome.
What did she deserve? What did she do to deserve
I
that?
think she was the world's she was certainly the world's worst babysitter.
Yeah.
But
Oh, absolutely.
she could have been the world's worst
She's
assistant.
She's not
gonna
supposed to
die.
be a babysitter. She's supposed to be an assistant. I understood
She was
why
still
she was
the
the
worst
worst
babysitter.
babysitter.
She
That's
was
not her
known as
job.
also a bridezilla because if you listen to her on her phone conversations,
Yeah.
she's like talking about her fiance's bachelor party, and they're all just a bunch of animals, and like this is what she needs done.
dress.
So they wanted to label her as like this bridezilla. So don't be a bridezilla because she'll die.
Badly.
I do love the actress though, Katie McGrath. I mean, she's great in Merlin.
That's what I was going to say. I think they were just punishing her for Merlin.
I know.
And so they needed her to die eventually, and they were like, we're going to kill her in this.
Great in Merlin.
What did this I was just going, what did this actress do? I mean, it's one of the more violent, like, it's even like Gennaro in Jurassic World. That's, when you get lifted up off the hopper and it's shaking around, okay, that pretty much sucks. Paul Schiff in Lost World, he gets flipped around and then torn apart by two T-Rexes. That pretty much sucks. There are violent deaths in these movies, but that one was like, it just seemed to go on for a long time.
Right, you keep
Played
thinking
with her.
she's gonna make it. She's gonna. Oh no, okay, she just got a little bump in the road.
Yeah, it's like, well, and then it was like, when is she going to die? Like,
I know,
how do you
just kill
survive?
Yeah,
it was an over-the-top scene, but it's a great set piece. And to your point, it does bring back the Mosasaur in such a great way that it foreshadows that he may show up.
yeah.
again.
Well, if you also
Yeah.
listen to a lot of the things I'm saying about the Mosasaur, it's kind of like teasing at like stuff that will happen.
Yeah,
you know?
top feeder.
Right.
I was a little bit surprised that they didn't make that dinosaur the megalodon, like, which was one of the most feared, and if you wanted to throw a thing, which is a very, 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 very big great white shark, and very vicious. But introducing a brand new dinosaur that hasn't been in this series before was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I liked most. And we got the pterodactyls and whatever the other flying dinosaur species were. I really liked that side of it. Where it wasn't, because to see a T-Rex and raptor again. Okay, they could have made that work, but to really go beyond the scope and make it all encompassing, that's what made it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actual paleontologist says that those birds, those pterodactyls, wouldn't be strong enough to actually pick up a human with the wingspan and whatnot.
Movie magic.
Wouldn't have the strength to like dive in and pick up human beings.
Well,
remember,
she's dieting. She's about to have a
Exactly.
wedding,
Right.
so she's at her leanest.
I'll give her that.
Exactly what I was going to say. One of the things that Colin said, because he loves the original characters so much, he felt it would have been a huge disservice to have them in this movie, because of, Ian Malcolm, like, what on earth is going to make him come to Jurassic World?
Right.
The curiosity, Dr. Alan Grant. And so I want, your guys' opinion. Did you guys miss any of the characters? We got the doctor. as we talked about that. But although they're iconic and you miss them for nostalgic reasons, could you guys see any role for them in this?
I'll say that I didn't need it. I didn't go through this movie being like, I absolutely need someone to have a character throwback. I thought that they really used nostalgia shot-wise, music-wise, how they set up a lot of their dinosaurs, entrances and exits. I thought those were all recalls to the original movie, so I didn't need more of that. I almost wanted more shots that didn't remind me of the original, because this is someone's new take on Jurassic World. I don't want a complete remake of something I've already seen. You want those new characters. You want it to evolve and grow. And I thought that was a really good point. They would have had to give me a very, very solid reason why they were bringing someone back who had been through so many traumatic experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you would expect these characters to be the advocates on why this park should not exist.
I get that, but to be devil's advocate, if you think about it, the whole park was because of John Hammond's love. This is what he always wanted. He wanted a successful park that had dinosaurs. And if we go off the theme park, think about Disney. All Disney movies have references back to Walt Disney himself.
Sure. They do
the
have
person.
references. They do have references. They have statues. Like,
I didn't mind
it's
the references
acknowledged.
back to Mr. DNA. It was fun seeing him for a
Well,
second.
John Hammond, obviously, had Richard been alive, you could have brought him back.
Right.
Sure,
But I didn't mind the references back to Jurassic Park, because the people who love that movie and who are still watching Jurassic World.
No, but it's not
I'm
about
not
that.
saying
The
that I
actual
mind
character.
it. I didn't say that. I think that I love, like, for instance, the deconstruction of the movie, of the music, or when they bring in the tune. I love those flashbacks. I think that a lot of the most memorable moments in Jurassic World are throwbacks. I think some of my favorite shots, favorite scenes are throwbacks.
The homages for me were what made this movie the most fun. You know, and as I said on top when we started the podcast, I wouldn't have minded like some semblance of a through line, whether it was somebody's ancestor or whether it was an older Ariana Richards as Lex. Maybe if she were the CTO of the park, that could have made a little bit of sense. Or if little Tim, who grew up to be a paleontologist, or instead of having Chris Pratt be a raptor trainer, have him a descendant of Muldoon, who was the game warden in the original Jurassic Park. Like that kind of a tie-in, I sort of kind of wanted. Bringing in B.D. Wong was great because, being the original geneticist, everything that he said made sense because he made it make sense in the first one. You have to remember, too, the original Jurassic Park, which was written by Michael Crichton, he took care in time to get his science sort of kind of relatable and accurate and real. So when it's explained how you create a dinosaur from finding the amber and sucking out the DNA from like the blood from a mosquito, as a reader, you were like, that makes sense. I get how that happens. And they translated that into the movie. Like, great. So you had that one common through line, and then throwing in, it made sense when he says, well, we can cosmetically design any dinosaur we want. And, we could use this DNA, and splice it all together. I like that. I just wish, again, I loved all the throwbacks. One of my favorites throwback scenes was when we first get into that visitor center, not the original visitor center, but when we walk into Jurassic World, there is a great shot that's a throwback to when we first meet Alan Grant and Allie, that of brushing off the bone and the camera swoops up and turns around. Like, that's how we're introduced to them and the paleontologists and digging up bones. And I was like, that's clever. Yeah. Because it was just the way that like Spielberg, what he did and spin the camera, and it's an over-the-head shot. It was a beautiful shot. Yeah. I should talk about the music. Michael Giacchino did the score. And, he did what I felt John Ottman had done in Superman Returns. I mean, there was such a love letter to Steven Spielberg and to John Williams but he didn't just copy it. he made it his own. I mean, I have the soundtrack I have them all, but I've been listening to Jurassic World like it's in my car at home, and what he does, and I'm so familiar with the soundtrack that my head goes like, he'll stop it at a certain place, but I know the bars that follow it in the original movie, but then he'll either stop it right there or go another direction. He did such an amazing, amazing job. And I think this is Michael Giacchino's year. We've talked about a couple of years ago was Hans Zimmer, who was doing every single movie that, audience are seeing. Last year was Alexander Desplat. This year we have Michael Giacchino. He did Tomorrowland. He did Jurassic World. He's doing Inside Out. I mean, this guy's working a lot, and he's doing different soundtracks. But he also did Super 8 for J.J. Abrams, which that movie was just a love letter to Steven Spielberg. And that soundtrack, too, is another love letter to John Williams and what he was able to accomplish. And it really makes you, appreciate what John Williams has given to cinema.
Right.
And
to add to that, it just shows his talent and versatility, because all those movies that you just mentioned, there's so many different genres. So it covers adults, kids, Inside Out's coming out. There's just his sheer talent in
long
general.
history with Pixar that gentleman has, and again it goes to the nostalgia factor that that iconic whether it's played fast or slow, going into the Dolby Theater, it must have been magical.
It was. It really was.
And it just adds to that Brontosaurus scene. Like John Williams, when it swells up and the Brontosaurus goes back, it's just
chills,
amazing.
Goosebumps.
So Michael Giacchino's score was equally a love letter to the original and to John Williams, and he still yet makes it his own. He doesn't just copy. He really did a fantastic job. I think it's a great score. It's a great score.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And he also did the video game in 1997.
Yeah.
So that was his kind of first foray into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For the Jurassic World video game.
Yeah.
Which is how he got pulled in. So the music utilized very well in this film.
I think so.
Nostalgia purpose,
Music
plot
and sound.
purpose.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's all inspired by the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's see. You guys might find the Chris Pratt role out of the Raptor pen very Indiana Jones inspired.
Which is ironic because he might play Indiana Jones one. We'll see.
Right.
Well,
I can picture that. I really could.
I don't want to picture it. Harrison Ford. Nothing against Chris Pratt. I love Chris Pratt. He's great. But I don't know. Harrison Ford's Harrison Ford. But that's all.
Anything else you guys want to discuss before we do get into the success of the box office, which that could be an entirety of a show itself?
Yeah. And how about anything that you wanted to point out that you want us to talk about?
I want Universal Studios, how they have a Harry Potter world. I want them to have like a little Jurassic World that they do. I think that would be so fun.
I think they're expanding it. Yeah. I mean, it's.
I know they have the Jurassic Park ride, but I would love to see like a mosasaur feeding, or you could go visit the raptor ring or a gyrosphere.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, when they opened up the Jurassic World ride or the Jurassic Park ride, I got a season pass to Disney. To Universal, and I would go there just to do that ride, and I always felt it was like way too short.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I right now I can't wait to get onto a Geosphere. I want to drive a freaking Geosphere, and how they made the Geosphere was actually like that bubble exists, the hamster ball.
Yeah,
I love how they rolled it on ball bearings and stuff. So, but they say that that's something that could be made, and I'm like,
I would be there.
I want to drive it. I want to be there.
And to add to the gyrosphere, for the sound effect, they used glass against glass, and they put a microphone in a big 5-gallon glass container, and then they put it on a potter's spinning wheel, and then recorded the inside of what it would sound like inside in the ball, which I thought was fascinating.
It's awesome.
You would
really
never
cool.
know. And then also there were a few shots that I felt like very Universal. The Universal Studios here in LA, if you've ever visited, I recommend it. The whole stairs and the escalators that just remind me of Steven Spielberg's steps, because it's known that the stairs that are at that park, Steven Spielberg, when the first movie came out, he rode on the theme park ride, but he didn't like the death drop at the end. So they built stairs just for him so he could go to the top or like just walk down the stairs himself, so he didn't have to go on the ride.
Oh,
So
that's
when we
funny.
saw the stairs in the film, I just thought, yeah, that's definitely Steven Spielberg.
And it was his
Get me
idea.
off this ride.
Yeah.
It was his idea to have the hamster wheels, and I love Jimmy Fallon putting him in there. Obviously,
That was
throwback.
great. Because when you
Fantastic.
ride those rides
Yeah.
at parks, there's always like this corny little
Well, it
thing,
is
and
Jimmy-
it's
Jimmy
always a
Fallon.
celebrity.
But it is Jimmy Fallon
'Cause
in
he did the
real
tour.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's the voice of the
bringing
tour.
that in and that comedic style.
Does anybody here know? This was going to be the original question until you brought up the Great Banner thing. But does anybody know who the voice of the tour was in the original Jurassic Park in those automated Jeeps? By the way,
It. I want to say I know
John
that.
Hammond spared no expense to get him to.
Doesn't Brian Bird come in and do one of the voiceovers in
Brad
this?
Bird does
Brad
the
Bird,
in
sorry.
this, but in Jurassic Park in the electronic Jeeps,
Yeah.
John Hammond spared no expense to get
I know
this.
it's a plot point. I forget who it is though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
No, that was going to be the original. If anybody out there, again, watching live.
But you were going to ask them a
you know,
Jurassic Park question on Jurassic World question?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. I could ask Jurassic World questions, but it's there for the true fan.
Yeah.
I got to throw it back. And
Well, for the
unless-
true fan, in the City Walk,
the city-
Yeah.
whatever we're gonna
Yeah.
call it, right? The City Walk scene,
Main Street.
the
It was Universal.
the skeleton of Jurassic Park 3, that dinosaur. 'cause
right.
I'm never
The
gonna be able to-
Spinosaurus.
The Spinosaurus. It had its skeleton there as a
Yeah.
throwback, which I
Yeah.
found interesting.
So, has anybody come up with the answer?
Nope.
No.
Matt R. asks, is it Richard Kell?
It's Richard Kiley.
Oh, Richard
I'll give him
Kiley.
Richard Kiley, who made a big splash as Phantom of the Opera. So it's Richard Kiley. I spared no expense.
Nice. Con-
There you go.
Good job.
Congratulations! I already gave away a prize pack, but we'll find something to give. We need all these people's information too, so we can send this stuff out. So
the
I think
original
it
one.
sounds-
something. Yeah.
Sarah,
So-
do you want to lead the box office breakdown? Since
I mean,
you're
I
our
think-
Popcorn Talk Network box office
Both
breakdown.
Demetri and I
host.
really like to talk about numbers. And while people were really excited about Jurassic World, no one was predicting the actual numbers that it did, bringing in money. It just
She did. She tweeted it. She said this movie is going to do $250 million.
No, I wish.
It's great. Congratulations. So many records were broken, but it was doing even double of what
Yeah.
some people had expected. It was very much from like the 85 to 110 opening weekend, opening to, of course, over 200,
Yeah.
208.8. Shattering things. And we've talked about this a little bit because what really brought people in was the nostalgia, was the franchise, was, of course, Chris Pratt's rise. But
Right.
you are getting a relatively new director to the big box office, to blockbuster film.
Right.
You are giving heavy hitters in the production realm with Frank and Steven Spielberg. And they did a lot of advertising with Steven Spielberg's name and really pushing his viewpoint forward.
Right.
But all these things, while they brought in families, they brought in different generations that accumulated to creating these numbers, no one expected it to hit this high.
Yeah, which is-
Hollywood Reporter did
Well, this soon, at
Hollywood-
least.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Hollywood Reporter did a kind of a study of 5 reasons why this happened, right? One of the reasons, boys love dinosaurs. Males made up 58%, especially in the younger demo, and because they're willing to shell out more for IMAX and 3D and all that, they were a huge. I mean, it's true. Who doesn't
Bringing a
love that?
movie, and especially when this is selling out, and you're going and you're showing it at 6 times in certain theaters,
Right.
and the regular showings are selling out and pushing more people to go see 3D.
Yeah.
Like those numbers go up and
Right.
up and up, and that's a double the price.
You
Yeah.
gotta remember, IMAX wasn't out. And the 3D and IMAX weren't as big, if not available back in the 90s when the first movies came out.
I'm glad you brought that up because, in a sense, Jurassic World and what it did business-wise is almost a throwback to 1992 or 1993 as well. You have to remember, Jurassic Park opened up 2,566 screens. Jurassic World here is opening up 4,290 locations. So,
Which was the most widest
yeah,
Universal's
it's the
ever
widest
had.
release. It's a huge release, and you got to think back in 1992, you did not have the multiplexes that you have today, so you were lucky to get it on 2 screens at a movie theater, because this was in the height of summer. So you were, so that number of 2,566, that's almost the amount of number of screens it was, and things would sell out. So at the time when it opened up, its opening weekend gross was 47 million, which back in 1993 broke box office records for being the highest domestic opening weekend. At the time, I believe it was toppling the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman, the first feature.
Oh, wow.
So that did like $42 million.
Yeah.
So this was $47 million. And again, it went on, opening up at 6/11/93, it went on to gross $357 million. So let's do a little math. What number... somebody divide 47 million into 357 million, and then we'll see what that multiple is.
You lost me at math.
Yeah, you lost me at math. I don't know what it is. I don't have a calculator in front of me. Basically, what I'm saying is Jurassic Park played and played and played throughout summer, fall, winter. It had a really huge multiple, so much so that if you adjust it for ticket price inflation, today, the original Jurassic Park, all in domestically, would have grossed $700 million. Like, that's insane.
Wow.
So it's almost a throwback to what the original did, and this one's breaking records. Now they're calling it globally.
Yeah.
It's insane.
When I was actually getting like the numbers, it was I was checking Deadline. I was at the gym, listening to my music, working out, and I checked Deadline, and it said it had beat Ultron, and it was hoping when the dust settled that it was going to be, the highest grossing opening weekend of all time. And just as I'm reading that, in my music changes to the Jurassic Park theme. And I'm gonna be real with you guys, I start getting emotional. I was doing like my bicep curls, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. I might have to leave the gym. And then when I found out that it did indeed break the record, I was with Maddie, who plays the ride operator, the one that's like, have a nice,
Great job.
I was with him doing a sketch show, and so it was really cool to like share in that moment together and be like, oh my God, this happened, this is happening, this is amazing. So both kind of emotional moments.
I mean, it should be, and for everyone involved, just it broke records not only for this movie, for the studio, you look at the director and it's like, how do I beat this? Like, what do you do for your next movie?
Yeah, no, it's lightning in a bottle. And again, I will shout out the gentleman who now runs Universal Distribution, Nick Carpoo. Always a great gentleman. Always loved him. And he was there. He was one of the salespeople, a sales manager back in the day in 1993. And, to see him succeed and now run the studio's distribution, for him, it's got to be, being there for the original and seeing what this one has done, like, globally. It's insane. And you just know that it'll only grow once it comes out. I mean, I've already pre-ordered it on Blu-ray. In fact, I did it today. It was available via Amazon to pre-order, so I got my 3D version whenever they set that date. So, how times have changed. It's crazy. But Jurassic World, again, I say it's a great throwback to what the original did back in 1993. It's pretty cool.
And it's also an interesting point for just where we are this year. We're halfway through. We still have huge movies coming out. Where we're going to end up at the end of this year, money-wise. What the box office is pulling in for these giant films is insane. I mean, last year we looked at a finish of like 10.8, and this year we're already at 4 point something for total grosses. Like, we're already over halfway there, and we still have huge heavy hitters. So we're going to be, the box office is going to soar at the end of this year.
But also, to your point, kind of, theme parks are NBC Universal's fastest growing segment, right? And so I think, in terms of wanting more rides and things like that, between all their locations, right, in Hollywood, Japan, and Singapore, I think, they're going to start looking at this. And
They better,
They
man.
already-
I don't think you
do
can.
that.
You can't not look at it and be like,
Yeah.
okay, if you're expanding the parks in that way, and you look at this as like a staple of your franchise,
Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah, and when you look at Universal Parks history too, Jaws. we're doing a Jaws ride.
Right.
We got a Jaws attraction. Earthquake back from the early 70s. Oh, we have an earthquake attraction. Now it's...
They already came out with the Furious 7.
Yeah, we always have Furious,
It was 2
Furious
months
7.
ago.
And, yeah. So they did the Jurassic Park ride, and now they're getting Harry Potter World. It wouldn't surprise me that those park heads are like going, okay, how do we make Jurassic World in Florida and over here? Here's an interesting thing regarding Universal Pictures, and I always say this. Success is cyclical in this business. Like last year, people complained it was a down year. This year could potentially be so high that next year you can't even beat.
Universal, though, did really well financially last year. It just didn't have a hit.
Universal box office receipts. The studio did not release any film in 2014 that made more than $70 million.
But without making it hit, it still had a huge profit.
But in fact, Universal did not release any movies last year that cost more than $70 million. So, when you look at what they're going to have this year with Furious, now Jurassic World, Ted 2, will probably make a couple of people laugh. They're having a great year, but you just never know. It's Paramount's having a down year this year, but next year, everything's like, it just doesn't. It's great when a studio can ring that bell, and this is going to be a great year for box office. It's going to be hard for next year, even though there's some great tentpoles coming out, to beat what we have this year. And and then people might complain, oh, it's down. It could be a great year. So I just say ride this wave. I think we've been given great fun movies to watch. This summer's been. What's your favorite outside of Jurassic World?
Okay.
Another favorite movie.
I did see Avengers, the Ultron one, and to me that was fun.
Yeah.
It was like a fun superhero movie. I really want to see Dope. I haven't been able to see that yet. Yeah, I really want to see that. I think that looks fun. Yeah.
Very cool.
Before we start wrapping up and getting final thoughts from everybody, I did, you mentioned the original Jurassic Park, and even this one is very scary. Well, Time came out with a trailer where they replaced all the dinosaurs with cute little dogs. So if you wanna check that out,
I will so check that out.
I would see that.
Have you seen the trailer?
What's that?
Have you seen that?
I have seen it. It makes any scariness that you guys thought, it goes away because you're looking at a puppy.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what I loved in this film, and it was only like 10 seconds, not even, was the whole petting zoo. I mean, we saw a little, what was that type of dinosaur? The little stegosaurus and a little triceratops. Right. It's like, yeah, I kind of want to pet it.
Colin said the first time that you're seeing the petting zoo, there's a little boy on a triceratops that's waving. That's his son. Oh. So he was able to put his son in the film, which I thought was really
Which is interesting, but this scene, the petting zoo scene, is an idea from one of the original films that didn't make it into those films because it took away from the mood or whatnot. So it was like kind of like the final of like, yes, we get to put this petting zoo finally in a feature, and it
Peter
turned out
wouldn't
really
have
well.
a problem.
Yeah. What's that?
Peter wouldn't have a problem. No.
No, not when he like chokes the brontosaurus.
No.
And that hug.
Yeah, the brontosaurus is like, I know, when I saw that, I was like, oh, be gentle with it.
Be gentle.
Somebody grab that kid.
Right.
All right.
I'd be curious to know what they may have cut out of this movie. Do you have any insights to that?
I don't.
Like your specific scene. Did they use it all?
Yeah, they used it all. Used it all.
There we go.
Cool. All right. Let's start with your final thoughts on Jurassic World. It can be anything.
God, just like it's been a absolute dream. I mean, to be in it, but also to get to watch it. I mean, I'm a fan of these films, so to watch it, taking myself out of it, but don't take myself out of it. But like, watching it, like I loved it. I loved it. I'm so excited to see where it's going. It's amazing.
Cool. Demetri,
have they asked you to be in the sequel?
I haven't heard anything yet. I would love to be.
Your character doesn't die, right?
Yeah,
no, I'm alive.
You could still
me and my
be the
mosasaur,
presenter.
we get along. I treat my mosasaur well.
There you go.
Well, like I said,
She's going to change the mosasaur while Chris Pratt changed the raptors.
Yeah, she's probably trains raptors. So no, listen. This movie is what a summer movie should be, and we're like I said off top. I'll just reiterate. It doesn't capture that magic. Once that's out of the bottle, Lost World and even Jurassic 3 couldn't do that. But it does for me. What was the most fun is the setup of the set pieces and the throwback to nostalgia. They really took great care, and whether it was something that was blatantly in your face, like the night vision goggles, or the goat. Where's the goat? That to the little things of like showing somebody brush off bones and have it come back, and instead of our paleontologists, little kids, like stuff like that made this movie for me a great time in cinema. Seeing it in XD and 3D as well, I mean, I was just blown away. Seeing it with a 61 speakers, I was so immersed, and I had such a great time that whatever I nitpick sort of kind of doesn't matter, even though it's silliness. But I had a great time, and I bought my ticket and I enjoyed the ride.
I definitely enjoyed it as well. It gave you what you want out of a dinosaur movie, which is to be scared and to be intrigued and to find some things wondrous. For me, I am very excited where this franchise could go. I found myself watching it when I watched it the second time, like zoning in. I was trying to be so focused when we got back into the lab and they had like different animals on the screen. I was like, what can I figure out that they're gonna introduce next time? Like just knowing that the capability that they've created these genetic dinosaurs and the traits they can bring in, and the different plot lines that way, very exciting. I think next round I want to get a little bit more character relationship. But I'm sure we'll get that from Chris Pratt because I love him.
I was just thinking your character actually may be out of a job because Jurassic World's pretty much going to go chapter 11, right? I mean, like, is it going to? I mean, how do they survive that? Like, that's a PR nightmare. How many people died?
But
only
25.
Only 25.
Maybe BD Wong asked me if I need a job.
Well, isn't it interesting? Like, they really sort of kind of set that up. You were touching on that where the embryos and things were being
all the embryos they have, that they're being
island.
transported, that they've created these what look like smaller Tyrannosaurus Rex hybrids. Right. They're putting it out there. They're putting out that the danger's not over, and that they can last for like however long on just the backup generators.
Right. Yeah. And
it's out there.
It was interesting too how they set up InGen. Because InGen being Hammond's company and all this, and now it's sort of kind of a separation of church and state. Sort of kind of like
weird,
InGen,
like mutiny that rose to power.
Yeah, InGen, like in the park itself, there's sort of almost separate philosophies going on there. So it's going to be interesting. More corporate greed leads to more people getting et really badly.
Yeah, I agree. Marisa?
I had a lot of fun despite the little nitpicks I had in between, but I think they did a great job of setting up a whole new generation, continuing this franchise and setting up more hype and excitement for the new films to come out, more sequels on top of all these already. And I liked how there was a lot of nice, tasteful throwbacks to the originals and, Rich and Attenborough and all that. So I think just more to come, and I want to see more dinosaurs because they're cool.
Dinosaurs are cool.
They sell.
I agree with you guys on the sequel. I think very much so the embryos are going to play a part of that. I really love the fact that the T-Rex, at the end of it, that's what it was all about. You can create all these hybrid dinosaurs you want. I'm still the king of the jungle type thing.
I know. How amazing when he's like over his kingdom.
When it comes over, it was like,
he's like, I'm back.
It was like the Lion King. Like, he just comes up, so.
Yeah, I really like that. And the only thing that was missing for me, and I kind of understand because it could have taken you completely out of the movie, was the fact of, you're my boy, Blue.
You're my boy, Blue.
I thought,
Boy, Blue. Yeah.
A reference to old school.
I want to say, so when they do build Jurassic World, I'm gonna do a really deep Universal throwback. Back when Animal House came out, there was a character in Animal House called Babs Jansen, who the ending of her story was she became a tour guide at Universal. So at the end of every Universal movie for good couple of years after that, if you stayed well past the credits, it would say, please go to Hollywood Studio, go to Hollywood Universal Studios. When in Hollywood Universal Studios, say hi to Babs. And it was a throwback to Universal, to Animal House, right? So now I'm going to say, when Jurassic World happens, when in Jurassic World, say hey to Courtney.
Yes.
We're going to put that up on Universal at the end of every Universal movie.
love it.
When visiting Jurassic World, say hello to Courtney.
Speaking of Courtney J. Clark on Twitter.
Court J. Clark.
Court J. Clark.
Yeah,
That's it. D Movies.
1701.
Hashtag Sarah Stratton because she doesn't have a Twitter. Sarah without an H. Serafini TV.
Yep.
And of
follow
course,
all of us.
Follow us here at the Popcorn Talk and Movie Anatomy for Anatomy of a Movie specifically. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And we're in the final days of our listener survey over at Podcast One. So go to Podcast One. That's podcastone.com. And it's about a 3-minute survey. Let us know, it's not specifically about this show. It's more of a general listener survey, but it does help us out in the greater scheme of things. So please go over there and do us that favor. You guys are great, and continue to be great.
Yeah, and comment the past couple of weeks on YouTube, Popcorn Talk.
We'll look at that.
You guys been great, but yes, keep talking to us.
We got Inside Out coming out soon, and
Mission Impossible.
So many things. And if you, Marissa, I'm very disappointed you haven't seen Jurassic World twice.
I tried.
The rest of us has. She's going tomorrow.
I might go today again.
There you go.
She's leaving right now.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you guys next time for Anatomy of a Movie.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.